It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Hi, Dr. Liz.
Hi, everybody.
I forgot about that.
Oh, good now.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cute.
Oh, man.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay and being cute. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Just being cute. Geez, I don't have a lot. We got together, what was it, Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
And I was reminded of a few fun facts about Buffy that I either have forgotten or didn't see, so I've started rewatching that again. I'm almost to the end of season 2. So I started way over.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, there's one thing about that first season that I missed in subsequent seasons is just the look of the episodes.
Yeah.
There was what I'm not even sure what it is. I know it's a little darker, but it's almost like it was filmed more like a film than an actual TV series, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of similar to the original Star Trek. You look at the early episodes and way some of the episodes were lit, and then how in the earlier episodes and in the later episodes, it's totally different. It's kind of the same thing.
Well, I think a lot of what it is, too, is after, the first season, they kind of got a feel for, hey, we've got a hit on our hands, let's throw some more money on this. When you have a little bit more money to play with, you do kind of change up your production and, can film things a little differently or have a little bit more leeway.
Right, for better or for worse.
Right. Sometimes they get too far into it, but...
Sometimes they make it look a little too glossy.
Right.
I kind of like the look of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer it.
I guess I didn't notice a whole lot. I'll have to look at that again, because...
You'll have to go back and watch them again?
Right, yeah. I didn't really notice the change there. But I'm seeing, starting over, it's like, wait a minute, the principal, didn't he die? Didn't she, kill him for something later on? Or blow the school up and he was inside of it? Or...
I don't want to get into too much spoiler territory, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Later.
Yeah.
Is this the cute part of the show?
Yes.
Well, I'm at the part now in season 2 where I'm, like I said, Buffy, I think I watched it when it originally came out. That's a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm at the part where he's the principal is letting on he knows what he's dealing with. He realizes there's vampires and there's something really wrong with the high school he has. So, yeah. I don't know if that's good or bad, or if I've completely forgotten. So it's kind of cool going back and watching it, because some of it you're like, I do remember when Angel turned again. And so, yeah, I'm having fun with it. and I get to watch Oz and Willow again, so that's always fun. But it kind of sucks because you know that doesn't end well.
I got into the Buffy series late, and I was introduced to him by Mike and a mutual friend of ours, Bill, a long time ago. But I caught up pretty quick. But I remember, I think Mike was telling me a story about the episode where the Willow from the other universe came into this one, and she was a vampire. But she's lesbian, and Bill said something to Mike that they've got to make Willow lesbian. They just got to. And sure enough, the next season she's got a girlfriend, and Tara.
Yeah.
You remember that, Mikey?
I do.
I was like, oh wow, you called that one.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cute to see the fresh faces again.
How young they look.
Because Willow, this was like way before her one time at band camp.
Yeah, it's a few years before that, yeah.
And I did get to recommend Bubba Hotep to somebody.
All right.
Cool.
Yay.
Yay. Well, she was asking for scary movies. So, of course, I gave her the rundown, gotta watch this. And then it was like, oh, yeah, her mom is like a really big Elvis fan. So it's like, you have to watch this. You have to watch it with your mom.
Oh, man. That could go one of two different ways.
Yeah.
Easily.
But it's my daughter-in-law, so I'll let you know how that goes.
Oh, wow. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, it's weird when people ask for scary movies because it's like, there's not. It's been a long time since I've watched something that was like, whoa, that was scary, It.
Well, that and it's hard to. It's hard to know what people are really going to react to and what they're really going to like and what they're really not going to like.
Yeah.
So it's hard to recommend stuff like that.
Yeah. And something that doesn't really scare me could keep her up at night, So, yeah. But I told her, I said, if you find anything scary, let me know. I must be missing it. I think the newer movies today are confusing gore with scary. And to me, blood, it's not scary. That's...
Well, and sometimes just weirdness, too. Something that maybe they don't necessarily entirely understand. They just decide, oh, that must be scary.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember Bubba Hotep being all that scary, to be honest.
No. But there is a monster in it.
Right.
So I think there's a difference of horror and scary. I think Bubba Hotep falls in the horror section, but not scary,
Right. I'll buy that it's a monster movie.
Yeah.
And that gets kind of pigeonholed with horror, but...
Yeah. Usually when you have some type of evil presence, it's thrown over into horror.
Mm-hmm. Basically something difficult, if not impossible, to explain.
Right.
And I kind of get it, but I also kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too far into it to be able to see it clearly, I think.
I've been hearing a lot about, I'm wanting to say it's called the new black cherry flavor, or maybe it's just the new black cherry or something on Netflix.
On Netflix, yeah.
Yeah. And I think from reading some of what people are saying, once again, people have confused gross with scary. And, gross can trip you out, but it's not as scary, So I don't know. I don't mind blood, but I get a little queasy when people start doing weird shit. yeah. If I check that one out, I'll let you know. Or if you guys do, let me know. But no, that's pretty much all I have. I did look a little bit more into the Substack that we had talked about with Peepos.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be the average price for, at least for Scott Snyder, is it Tim Seeley?
Mm-hmm.
And Scody, they all have like a $7 a month kind of thing. And you can, basically get everything without getting like super into it, And then for like $300 a month, you can get in on Zoom calls and that kind of thing, which I don't think I'd ever be interested in that, Maybe like a one-time month kind of thing, but definitely not monthly, But I could see paying the $7 a month if Scody is putting his I Hate Fairyland over there. I figure I don't really care for digital, but I figure if that's the only way I could read it, I may just do that because I know at least that's going directly into his pocket, so I don't know. Oh, and also if you go for like the $300 thing, I think you actually get the comics in hard print is what I saw. But Scott Snyder has just done his first masterclass that they're doing. And it looks like he's teaching off of things that if you have Comixology Unlimited, a lot of his work is over there with that. So he's using pages out of that. So if people do have the subscription and, kind of like he's not charging for his textbook kind of thing, so to speak. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. But I don't know. I think if they're consistent with it, I mean, I don't want to pay $7 a month and not get anything every month, you know? So I don't know. I know right now it's new and it's still fresh, but a lot of them are keeping their day job, So I'm curious to see if it will stay consistent like that or if deadlines from other projects and things will hold them up and if there's delays or anything. So I'll probably hold off. Just like anything new, I always wait for the new to come out and let all the bugs and stuff get worked out. And
let the new come out and stop being new.
Right. I'll pay for the second round,
Well, I mean, they still have their day jobs because they still have commitments to those stories. So,
Right. So I'm curious how they'll juggle all of that.
I tell you one thing.
More than likely, they've been juggling like that for years already anyway, so they'll be fine.
True.
Yeah. I had subscribed to Tinian's newsletter several months ago. And ever since this whole thing with him jumping to Substack, I've been getting a lot more emails from him from his newsletter, and it's like, okay, I'm about ready to jump out,
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you. This is what you want to do. You're excited, and you're wanting to let everybody know. But holy shit, dude.
Right.
Just calm it down a little bit,
Steven, maybe with more time they will. I think all of us, especially with our podcast and stuff, you kind of put your foot in to see what works and what doesn't work. And
we put our foot in around here, all right.
Yeah, we stepping in it a lot.
Oh, yeah, we do. Sometimes run it over with the bus. So
Oftentimes, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Because like with Scody, I did sign up for the free part of it because I kind of want to keep in the know of when I need to start paying for that comic. And I do get one from like his regular thing and from what he's doing on Substack.
And
so.
and the thing that also with Timmy, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I'm sorry about that. What he's announced that he's doing as well is he's stepping away from social media once everything's up and going. He will close out his Twitter account. He'll have one just for the newsletter, and in any other news, any other social media he's on, that's going away. And I thought that's kind of interesting.
I kind of said something a couple of weeks ago about sometimes I wish the artists didn't post their shit on Twitter. Sometimes you just don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear a bunch of, I hate to say this, but I don't want to hear a bunch of virtue signaling when I just want to know what project you're working on next, to where I see if they do go to a little bit more personalized site, people who are also interested in the other stuff they're talking about can go and pay for that and listen to that. So I think that's great, but it also takes the artist away from the publisher. I don't know why. I didn't even want to look, but Tom King was getting raked over the coals this weekend. And had he owned his own personal site, they would have separated him from DC. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes what you say on a public account, you still have a boss, So
Well, that's true for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all have Twitter accounts. Whatever we do, whatever we post, is that representative to our employers? So I mean, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of thing that's getting put into the hiring stuff nowadays too.
Yeah.
Companies are looking at that proactively and saying, okay, I mean, you gotta, when you sign this deal, basically for whatever it is you're doing, usually there's some sort of language in there that says you gotta make sure you don't talk crap about the company now that we're actually paying you to work here.
Right.
Sort of thing.
Or,
paraphrasing, obviously. But
companies don't want somebody out there speaking racist either.
Right.
And it's not fair that if this guy goes on a racial rant that the company's held responsible, but they are. Because not only are you going off, I'm just example here, not only are you going off on this racial rant, you're also announcing, oh, by the way, buy my Superman or Batman or whatever comic book, so it's hard to separate those two.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to talk about work and your personal beliefs, especially nowadays, not everybody agrees with everybody. It's almost opening a can of worms to where a lot of companies are like, we don't care you feel that way. We just don't want to broadcast it on a big platform that maybe we do or don't feel that way, So, I personal.
I understand what you're saying, but that's basically along the lines of, you work in this profession. It's like the celebrities and actors. They come out and say something, and then their immediate response is, just stick to your lane. And
Right.
It's like, that's not right. If someone feels strongly enough, they want to say something, because it's not fair for the person's telling. Let's say, for example, I happen to be an actor and I am doing this film, and I come out and say something that's rather controversial, and someone comes back to me and say, stick to acting. Well, why don't I come back to you and say, stay to your day job? Why don't you go back to being the custodian of the high school that you're doing? Why is it fair for one person to be able to say what they want to do while the other person's not allowed to say what they can do because of their position?
Right.
That's something that's always bugged me, but I understand what you're saying.
I've always felt there should have been like two. If James Tynion wants to tell me what comic book he has coming out next time, then separate your account. Let me know that this is a business thing and this is your personal thing. So maybe DC should just make it, or any comic book company, just post it on our business page. That way your personal account is just that. It's your personal account, but when you're mixing business with personal, business is going to get tied up in that. And which means that at that point, they have to 100% believe whatever that person is saying. Think of it, if I owned a daycare I'm not going to post pictures of me drinking and partying. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the image that I'm trying to present for my daycare, you know? So it's kind of, it's not fair, but people do have those opinions. So, yeah, you know, I've had to unfollow a lot of people just because it's not that they're wrong or they're right. It's just constant. And it's like, bleh, you know, I don't want constant in my face, you know, even if I 100% agree with you, I don't want it constantly in my face, you know, yeah, I just feel that there should be a separation there, you know, that, I don't know. Like I said though, I see the Substack as a good thing because at that point you're you. You're no longer the face of Batman. You are no longer the face of Wonder Woman. You're just you doing you, you know. So I'm coming off anti-creator again. And I hate
No, not really. I think the trick here, I think that what you're talking about is that, I mean, it makes sense for there to be that separation that you're talking about.
yeah,
The problem that you run into is, where does that start? How does that begin? And how do we define where those lines are? Because, and that's the part that nobody can take actual ownership of, because if the large corporation does it, then it becomes something weird.
censorship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if governments do it, then it definitely becomes tyrannical censorship,
Oh,
and
definitely.
you can't. It's one of those deals where our society doesn't work in a way where you can just ask people to do the right thing, because there's
Yeah.
always a really good fucking excuse why they won't,
Right.
and it's just so it's the kind of thing that, I mean, you can't enforce it, because by the time you're enforcing it, even if you start trying to enforce it, you're automatically the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trick, and that's the part that sucks. That's why we can't have nice things, you
Right.
know. That's why Twitter is a cesspit.
Mhm.
It's a cesspit I log into every day, but it's a cesspit.
Right. Sometimes it's fun to watch. And then sometimes you see things and it's like, you know what? Like Tom King trending. I'm not even going to click on that, you know?
You don't want to know, right?
I don't want to know. I'll probably agree with whatever the hell it is, but I don't want to know. I have found my happy place with him and his dog, so
There you go.
that's where I am. So, but yeah.
Now, if only you could figure out how to filter out everything except his dog that he says,
Right.
everything would
Well,
be peachy.
it's only dog pictures on Tuesday, so
Okay, there you go.
I tune in on Tuesdays.
Right. Cool.
I mean, I agree. It can be very bad, but there's every once in a while there's something there that's really interesting or kind of fun, and that's why I put some of that stuff on Discord. It's like, that's kind of interesting. I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about that, or that's fun. So
Yep.
Well, and if you want fun without a lot of hammering over your head, Gail Simone. She has found that even line to walk where she's still personal, but she's not putting down the other half of the fan base, you know, and she knows when to cut it. So I like her now.
That has not always been the case, but yeah,
No,
so
it
I'm
has
glad to
not.
hear it.
But she always posts some pretty interesting things too that you normally wouldn't think about.
Well, and
Or
sometimes literally just random insanity,
yeah,
which
the
is
silliness.
also fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's just having fun, and
yeah,
it's
like
all
her being a bear. That
uh-huh.
started off with just fun, you know.
I just have one word: Cyclops.
There was
Uh,
actually something, I want to say it was in the last couple of weeks, where she actually came around for a minute there on the Cyclops thing. I forget what the gist of it was. Go back and find it, but yeah, she actually talked herself into liking Cyclops. I don't know if it immediately went away, because
Wow.
it's just fun. But yeah, she realized something about Cyclops that made the whole character make sense to her all of a sudden, and she was disappointed because she lost an enemy.
That's when she started looking for new enemies, wasn't it?
Maybe, I don't know.
But yeah, she's funny. So if you're not following her, go follow her. She's
Right, all of that other shit she was just saying leads up to go follow Gail Simone on Twitter.
yeah, and she does some really good game reviews too. So I've found quite a few games just from her that I had never heard of. I think Steven Jackson sent her a bunch of games, and it was like, wow, I didn't know they did that outside of Munchkin. So
Oh, you don't understand. Steve Jackson Games was around for 20 years before Munchkin ever came about. Munchkin was kind of their breakout and was a huge deal, but they had been making games for years before that. There are some interesting stories there too. They have an interesting history.
I've always wanted to learn how to play that game. And then we had a friend who was going to teach us that. She even came up to the shop, and I think Les was there. Was finally going to be able to learn how to play this game, and then I had to work the counter. So it was like,
Well, we can teach you. It's been forever since I've played it.
Me too, but I bet I'll remember it.
it looks cute. He's got so many packs that you could buy for this, though. I think I have Nightmare Before Christmas. See, I have so many versions of this game.
Right.
I just can't get anybody to sit down and play with me.
That's the trick.
They need to come up with an app, because Looney Labs created a Flux app, which I've had for a couple of years now. I play it, and it's only a couple of bucks. So I've played that off and on. It's still not the same thing as playing against a real person, but although you can play with someone online, I just normally play with AI. But yeah, it's fun. So you would think they might be able to work out a way to where it can do Munchkin, where you can either play against the AI or you can play against someone online.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're looking into it.
Especially nowadays, it's hard to have a game night.
It's kind of hard when everybody's supposed to be kind of 6 feet away from each other.
Well, and there's not a lot you can play online, with other than, can you water my cow?
Water my cow.
Oh, Farmville. I remember those days.
See, that was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I believed it. I wasn't denying the existence. I was just.
The thing about those games, I drifted away from them because of the whole trying to either recruit new people to start playing the game, or add other people to your friends list that play the game, which could be very dicey.
Yeah.
And then even if you had people playing the game, to get them to cooperate with you.
Yeah.
It's like I logged into Facebook every day saying, "Hey, I need this. Can you help me out? Or could you send me this?" That kind of thing. And I'm doing that all day long. And it's like, that's not fun.
It's not.
That's a sales job.
Or you can spend a bunch of money and skip all of that. It's like,
convenient.
That's great.
It's like they knew where the pain point was going to
Yeah.
be.
This free game just cost me $50. Or, hey, let the baby have your phone and it'll cost you $100. I beat that game.
Into the ground.
Right. Well, and, there's another game that I play too. I can't remember the name of it now. But they haven't updated it. It's like you've done all you can do. And it was a new game too. And it's like,
Wow.
hello,
Well, clearly they did not figure out how to make money out of it because they
Yeah.
ran out of money and stopped having
And
coders to make more.
and it only goes up to like level 30. So it's like, you didn't think this through, did you?
No.
It's
I,
like
I,
way new.
I tell you what, there is, I play a few games on my phone. Y'all guys know that. There is an ad for one of these that I've seen a couple of times, but the third time I saw it, I noticed something. I'm like, oh my freaking god! It is a bingo game that they tout that, hey, you can actually win real money and all this, and they even got Snoop Dogg, a video of Snoop Dogg, pumping it up. Hey, you need to do this. This is real and all that. You seen it, Liz?
I've seen it, yeah.
Next time you see it, look at his video and then look at the bottom left hand corner. It is a Cameo video. They actually paid him through Cameo to plug the game. I'm like,
right.
are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god! So every time I see it now, I'm automatically seeing that Cameo logo, and I'm like, oh god.
I like those ads where they show you a game and you're like, oh, that looks pretty cool, and you go to download it and it's a match 3 game and you're like, wait.
Oh yeah, that's the one all those bug me is if it's not if the ads are not someone who's playing it is just a complete idiot and fails it.
Yeah.
Or it shows something that you never see in the actual game.
Never. It's like, when does her husband leave her? When does she see him sleeping with that girl?
That is something else I have noticed. A lot of these are it's a female character that's either found out she's pregnant and the boyfriend or husband leaves, or she shows up and it's her boyfriend or husband is cheating on her, so she leaves and she starts remodeling this mansion or business or whatever. I'm like, wow, that's kind of limited thinking there, guys.
Right.
Wow, so that's all it can be. A guy can't just decide to buy a business and try to start it over again or something like that. It's always got to be a girl that got shit on.
Yep.
Okay.
Woman scorned. It's gonna win that match 3 game. Show
That's
him.
right. Either win the match 3 or find all the hidden objects.
Oh, Jesus. See, and I have bad eyesight, so those kind of games are crap to me, It's like, can you find the square? And it's like, no. Everything's fuzzy and looks
Square?
the same.
Hell, I can't even find my phone. What are you talking about?
So that's a rectangle. But yeah, I don't have much. So.
Yeah.
Clearly not.
Dodged a big one there.
Right.
Alrighty, Mikey, what cuteness do you have?
Oh, I got a documentary. I got a documentary, but it ain't cute. Oh, there's sparkles, but it ain't cute.
Uh-oh.
There's lots of sparkles. This is the age of disco.
Uh-huh.
I watched a documentary called Tear the Roof Off, the untold bleh. Wow. The untold story.
Sorry. Sorry.
No, you're not.
One more time.
One more time.
It's called Tear the Roof Off, the untold story of Parliament Funkadelic.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's not nice at all. No, it's actually a good documentary. It's not a nice story.
Right.
Man, he screwed his band over bad, like for years and years and years and years and years. But, and I wish this documentary had actually had more music in it. I was a little disappointed by that, but I'm usually disappointed with how music documentaries treat music. But yeah, it's a really interesting story, kind of up to a point, which would be the point at which this dude manages to somehow hit it big and then goes off and hires a bunch of basically teenagers to work for him and then completely screws them over financially and psychologically for 10 years.
Yeah.
This documentary pulls no punches. It is most definitely weighted in the favor of the people that actually would talk to the documentarian, which was basically everybody else in the band other than George Clinton. So it's definitely skewed against him because he was apparently not a nice man. I say was, he's still around. But yeah, it's a, like I said, it's a dark story, but it's got some interesting stuff in there. It is worth checking out. It's only like an hour long too. Maybe they would have put more music in it if it was like an hour and 45 or something, but or
And
if
what
they
was
had
that on?
gotten permission to use the music at all. Amazon Prime
Amazon.
was where I watched it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've seen that listed too.
Okay. Anything else?
Mm,
Mm,
no, not really.
okay. All right, Les.
Like I discussed the other day, I flipped around the channels and I found, Phantom of the Paradise, one of my favorites. I think maybe because it's an early movie by Brian De Palma. And to have Brian De Palma to do a musical, music by Paul Williams, is kind of fun. Knowing that De Palma would later go on and do movies with mobsters and the like, but to just step down and say, let's have some fun, it just still fascinates me. I really can't watch this enough. I know all the words to the songs. I sing the soundtrack as the movie plays. So I am so pleased that this was found on one of the Roku channels, and I just loved it. It was great fun. Other than that, I did not do much. So I'm going to give up the mic and step down.
How cute. Okay. For me, I watched the documentary this past week. It is also a musical documentary, but nowhere near as dark as Mikey's. This came out in 2019, entitled Linda Ronstadt, The Sound of My Voice. And this was really interesting. Of course, it's telling her life story and in her entrance into the music industry and how successful she came and how she challenged everything. I mean, she fought the whole thing of a female singer with a male band. She challenged, basically her whole career, she kind of drifted for different genres of music. She did almost everything. It was funny. Well, it's not funny, but it was interesting. She was talking about when she was a child, like on Saturdays, she would go to her grandparents' house and would listen to opera on the radio. And then she would come home and her dad's on the piano singing Mexican songs, and her mom would be listening to Gilbert and Sullivan. That's an interesting kind of musical background to be, growing up in. And then, talk about how, when she got to like 18 or so, she was basically encouraged to go to LA and by Bobby Kimball, who said, I'm listening to all the singers out here. You will be very successful. And they created the band Stone Ponies, and they recorded Different Drum, the Michael Nesmith song. And that whole thing was kind of interesting because, they were trying to get a record deal and all that. And the executives were in Linda's ear saying, you really need to get rid of these two guys that you're with. You really need a solo artist. And she's going, no, we're a group. Why would I want to do that? And eventually the band broke up and she did go solo. And of course there was her success in the 70s and 80s and all that. But she left basically country rock or rock and pop, and then turned around and did Pirates of Penzance in New York because she wanted to do it. She wanted to challenge herself. She wasn't sure if she could be able to do it. And then, she wanted to do an album of standards like, Frank Sinatra and the rest. And she's like, I want someone like Nelson Riddle to handle the orchestrations. And she was told, why don't you go talk to Nelson Riddle? He's still around. And she got him, and that went well. And then she did an album of like Mexican music. She did all these things. And, in 2014, she was put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But, and she's still with us, but the thing is, she had to retire back in 2009, was her last concert, because she developed Parkinson's, and it affects her singing. Mm. So she can't sing anymore.
Oh, that sucks.
And, well, the sad thing is, the documentary ends, presumably in her house, and with her cousin on accordion on one arm of a couch, and I think it was her nephew with a guitar on the other side, and they're trying to sing, and they've kind of got pulled back where you can see all three of them, and when she starts singing, you see her right hand start shaking. I saw that, I was like, oh God. So,
gets you right in the feels, don't it?
Yeah, and she's like, I can't sing, but I can't help not singing with them with this particular song that they were singing. She had to sing, but she couldn't. So, but it's a really, really well done documentary, and I highly recommend it. I saw it on Tubi.
That does sound pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I'll look for that one.
And of course, there was a little bit of an Eagles mention in there.
Of course.
And not too long. I mean, I had forgotten that the Pirates of Penzance, when she was in it, Kevin Kline was there too. He was part of it.
Oh, cool.
So I saw his name. I was like, okay, Linda Ronstadt and Kevin Kline. How does that? And then that part came up. I'm like, oh God, I remember that now. So. And it's fun seeing him with long curly hair and in the traditional white shirt that's kind of open so you can see his chest, all that, yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really look like Kevin Kline.
Right.
So, but yeah, well worth the time. It's about 95 minutes, I believe. So, basically an hour and a half.
Interesting.
Cool.
Okay, before we get into this week's discussion, I kind of mentioned it earlier. We do have a Discord. It's been going for over a year now. We post news items. We'll post videos, some funny stuff. We have some exclusive activities going on there. We'll do hangouts or meetups there in our voice channel. That kind of thing. So you're welcome to come join us if you want. Discord sign up is free. The app is free. I'm sure you can find it anywhere in either in any of the stores. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, right there on the homepage, there is a Join Us little logo. You just click on that, and that's your free invite. And you're more than welcome to come join us. It's been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For this week, we kind of wanted to take a look back. I had not realized this until I was trying to put together topics for discussion, that this marks the 5-year anniversary of DC's Rebirth. And actually, and I'm sure we'll spend some time on this as well, that's the 10th anniversary of the New 52. So, Rebirth, if you have forgotten or don't know what it was, back 10 years ago, DC decided to do a relaunch or a restart of its publishing line, entitled it The New 52. And, of course, it met with opposition and all that. So 5 years later, they decided to do somewhat of a course correction. So with it being the 5th anniversary Rebirth, I figured we would take some time to kind of take a look back, see, our thoughts on how things had gone before then and after, and since. Was it successful? Did it do what they were hoping it would do and all that? So with that, I'm going to step back and let y'all start discussing.
Well, I think it did do what they were wanting it to do. We were coming from the New 52, which I think I talked a little bit about this last week, was only supposed to be 52 lines, and they wound up with a lot more than 52. I think Batman at one point had 52 lines.
It still does.
They're still selling.
A lot of people, yeah. A lot of people were really upset with what was going on in the New 52. A lot of characters that were well-established characters, Lobo, was changed into something that just wasn't even recognizable anymore. It was... 52 was bad. It was really, really bad. So I think that Rebirth did do good because finally DC was able to go, whoa, we may have gone a little too far with this. Maybe we shouldn't have made Green Arrow a little sniveling rich boy. And,
Green Arrow was a little sniveling rich boy when they invented him.
Yes, but not as bad as the 52. The 52 one, he was such a crybaby. I mean, it was sad to watch it go down. I cheered when they brought him back in body bags. Not bag, but bags. I mean, that's how bad they wanted to end that, and just, whoa, let's forget we did that. It just, this entitlement that he had, and it was just kind of... I don't know how to quite describe. He didn't have that grit that he once had.
Were you planning on running off on a tangent on Green Arrow? Was that the goal here?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
That was one of the major ones.
Okay.
Lobo was another one. Even so much so, when they was fixing it, they decided to leave Lobo in a little bubble. They were like, no, we're not not that one. I think that's even what they said, not that one. I do think it was a good way to kind of right some of the wrongs that they did, and it did set us up pretty good for what we have now. I think it put an end to a lot of things that they felt they went a little too far with and just didn't know where to go from there, I will say that some of the best endings that I have seen was right before Rebirth. Superman, I cried. It was touching. It was the story we needed to wrap that up, you know. But it felt good to know that Rebirth came along and he's fine. Here he is.
I've gotten better.
Yes. Psych.
I'm not dead yet.
I feel happy.
This is why we have the bells on graves.
I'd like to dance.
I think I'll go for a walk now.
But I do think that Rebirth did give us kind of the good reset that we needed. I'm not saying that there wasn't anything good in 52. We had Amanda Connor and Palmiotti doing Harley Quinn. So, you know, I'm not saying everything out of 52 was just bad, but there were so many of our characters that just were bad. I mean, I don't know if it was the writing at that point or if that's what DC was going for, but some of it was just bad. I don't know what else to say than bad, you know.
So basically, the New 52 was the new Coke of the comics world. Pretty
much, yep. It was something that they wanted to do that nobody asked for. You know, that's not what we wanted, you know. I do think that Rebirth worked, like I said, in that sense. I guess we're still kind of in the Rebirth, though, aren't we? This is the current line.
They haven't rebooted anything since then, but
right.
At least
Rebirth was officially a year.
A year? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, did DC think it worked? I don't know, because here we are 5 years later, and we've, you know, averted from 5G, so they were already looking for a way to redo Rebirth. So I don't know. I would say it did, because I was not liking what was going on at that point. So,
well, Rebirth was trying to take the DC universe back to like pre-Flashpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Flashpoint was interesting, but it just messed my head up big time.
Yeah.
So they were trying to go back to prior to that, because New 52 was kind of established by Flashpoint, right?
I think that was it.
Yeah.
And as a result, they were not doing well with some of their titles. New 52 was a good idea because you had, like you said, starting, it was 52 titles a year.
Yep.
And
something easy that you could manage, you know.
right. If you wanted to pay $2.99 or $3.99 an issue, you were okay.
Yep.
Because you could spend $4 times 52, which is $200, and then times another 52. That's a lot of money to spend in one on all the New 52 titles.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a good idea, because you would be able to limit yourself to the titles and get a continuity.
Yep.
But Rebirth said, let's wipe out some of this stuff. And it was a hell of a lot easier than doing another Crisis title to try to weed out so many things. And when Rebirth was introduced here in this city, we were able to go to a meeting with Dan DiDio and Jim Lee, who stepped forward and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and these are the titles that we're going to start with, And that was fascinating to me because they were upfront with it. And they were telling us then that there would not be a crossover, a crisis that they kind of used till it meant nothing. And to me, that was major. So,
well, they kind of did. Didn't they try to kick off Doomsday to explain Rebirth? And then Doomsday
the
got
Doomsday
delayed
Clock?
and delayed and delayed to where
Yeah, it was the
made
Doomsday Clock.
no
Doomsday-
sense.
Yeah. Doomsday Clock was toward the end of it, though.
Was
The
it?
end
Okay.
of Rebirth.
See, but it was supposed to be at the beginning. And then I'm not sure what happened to the title, but it went from being delayed and then it was kicked back to a monthly, and then it was like several months before we got another one. And it was Doomsday Clock was supposed to kind of step into what Rebirth was doing. But by the time that Doomsday came to its end, it was kind of like, oh, okay, this is already happening, because the other titles in Rebirth was not going to wait for them. We don't know why you can't get your shit together, but here's our book, So that kind of, I think they were supposed to kind of have a kickoff, but it kind of fizzled. It was still a good title, but it didn't make the impact that DC wanted it to right at the beginning of Rebirth, like it was supposed to have.
Well, the Doomsday Clock was kind of part of the cover for the first issue of Rebirth. You had Dr. Manhattan in the upper right corner of the magazine holding his hand out like God reaching down to touch to Adam or any human there.
Yeah.
But
it was also supposed to establish the Watchmen within the DC line.
Right, but the Doomsday Clock didn't happen till a year after Rebirth had started. It was a year because May 17th in the Rebirth special, or May of 16, was the Rebirth special, and then May of 17 was the series Doomsday Clock. And that didn't release till November. So you had a year and a half before Doomsday Clock started. Doomsday Clock had its own problems for publication. Not that they weren't waiting for it,
right?
But they just were dragging their feet through the mud. They being the creators of Doomsday Clock, and they had delays and such like that. So it wasn't a total story, but yet also it wasn't only their problem, the creator's problem for Doomsday Clock, but it was all the other titles that DC was running in to cohere to what was going on in Doomsday Clock. And if you start tossing new titles in there, Doomsday Clock is going to have to sit on the shelf again. It's going to have to wait to the time of the finalization. So to me, Doomsday Clock was supposed to be the finale, more or less, of the Rebirth. Now, a lot of changes were made in the DC universe then too. So I'll talk about that later. I'll let somebody else tell their opinion too. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I kind of understand why DC did the New 52. From what I understood, it was to try to bring in new readers. The problem is it alienated the old readers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, you gained a little bit, but you also lost a little bit doing that. And then with Rebirth, you kind of did the same. It was the opposite thing. You brought back some of the older readers, but you probably kept some of them away because it's like, well, you know what? You already pissed me off by doing what you did. I'm staying away. And then you alienated some of the new readers because what they've invested for the last 5 years may or may not be in there anymore. So, I mean, I didn't complain a whole heck of a lot, if I remember correctly, about the New 52. There were problems. I did have, there was stuff I had issues with, no pun intended.
Oh.
But, when Rebirth came around, I was kind of happy. I was happy to see the old original Titans come back and the fact that they were being acknowledged again and some of that. So, it was kind of pleasing. I was kind of happy. And then, of course, y'all already mentioned the whole thing with the Doomsday Clock that I kind of jumped out pretty quick because, it seemed like there was issues trying to get that series out.
Always. Took 2 years, over 2 years to get 12 issues out.
Well, I'm not sure what the deal was. I don't know if it was the art or, maybe some editing issues. I don't know. Anyway, so was it successful? I think it was there for a while. It's funny how all the changes happened to all the books except for the Batman and Green Lantern, which happened to be the best sellers at the time. Go figure. If it's working, you don't fix a broken, you don't fix a wheel that's not broken, or whatever the phrase is. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So was it successful? I think it was. I think it brought some readers back. Did more come back than the ones that left? Well, I mean, we could look at the numbers, and I don't want to do that, but those numbers are not exactly accurate anyway. But and we've discussed that on previous podcasts, so I'm not going to go into that. But I think overall, I think it was well received. But even now, some of that, with this, was the Infinite Frontier. Is that what it's called now? That they're doing now. So now it's like all of it's in play again. So some aspects of the New 52 may be back, as well as Rebirth, or there may be some new stuff being brought in at you. So the only constant is change.
Yeah. And I do agree sometimes they need to do that, one of the biggest things when I worked in a comic book store is people would come in and maybe they started, they wanted to read Batman, but they look at Batman and Batman's already on issue 700 and they're kind of like, whoa, where do you even begin with that? So when you have an event like Rebirth, it did make it easier for new readers to jump in when they wanted to, or even with 52, I feel bad for the ones that thought that was the original history of those characters, but, anytime they do something, it's gimmicky, but it works. And then not only do you have the new readers who want a place to start and jump in, you have some of your old readers who are like, oh, I get a number one, There's always something special about having the number one comic.
See, I never understood that thinking Because if I was that way, I never would have read a Batman comic until 2011.
Yep.
You know, I picked
Well-
one up when I was a kid, and it was like issue 289 or some such. You know what? It was a Batman comic. And the cover looked interesting, and I kind of threw through the pages. I want to read it.
Yep.
You know, I kind of understand the completist thing, but man, if I wait around for an issue 1 on certain books, isn't that what we've complained about Marvel for the last several years?
Yeah.
How they would do a book and then automatically cancel it and then turn around and do a brand new number 1 after it being only a dozen issues, and Dynamite does it all the time.
Well, I
So-
think what a lot of new readers don't understand, though, that yes, that number means something, but it doesn't really mean a lot. There's a lot of story arcs that start and end within those, you know. They don't understand that when a new story arc starts, it doesn't go back to number 1. You know, it's going to continue. DC, I mean, Marvel used to do wonderful, you know, here's what you missed kind of thing. And I don't think they do that anymore. It'd be great if a lot of the bigger companies would do that. So people who felt, you know, I don't want to start in the middle of this, you kind of have, well, here's a little catch up. You know, Zenescope is amazing at doing that. They will tell you everything that's happened before you touch that comic book, you know, which is pretty cool because it makes it easier to jump into something, which Rebirth did. It made it easier to jump into it. Like you said, did it bring back the old people it ran off? I don't know if it did.
Yes and no.
Right.
Yeah,
Some of
'cause-
them maybe, but
Yeah.
But and I know what you're talking about, the whole previously, but
Mhm.
even then that can be, you know, depending on how that's handled, that could be good or bad. I've told this story, I'm pretty sure I've done on the podcast before. A mutual friend of ours, who used to work in a comic book store, Eddie, he told me about a story arc in X-Men. Says, you really need to read this because it's really, really good. I was like, I hadn't read an X-Men comic in a long time. This was back probably about 2009 or so when we were having this conversation. But he's like, you really need to check it out. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it on your say-so. You know, so I picked up, it was like the first 3 chapters that had already been out. I opened up chapter 1 and I read the previously. I immediately closed the book because I was already lost just reading the previously,
Oh no.
trying to figure out what the hell was going on
at the beginning
told
of the
you.
arc.
Too
at
much.
the beginning
Yeah.
of the arc. So it's got to be handled right. And honestly, books need to have more jump-on points. They don't.
They do.
Don't. That's one when and I hate to do the old man thing, but when I was a kid, a lot of the books were done in one, or if it was kind of a continuing story, there may be references in the second or third chapter saying, you know, one of the characters saying this happened, and then there would be the old box with the asterisk saying this happened in issue so and so. So
Yeah.
you might be able to go back and get that book, and that stuff doesn't happen anymore. So
Yeah.
So you can go, okay, maybe I can go get that and find out what the hell happened here. But there's just not enough jump on points anymore, and that's on the writers.
That is.
And whether that is a directive from above or that's just a conscious choice, there's not enough, you know, they're just expecting everybody to be able to pick up a book and know exactly what the hell's going on, and that's not the case.
No, it's not. And it can be intimidating, you know.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody's popular as Batman, but they're like, oh, there's too much to know about Batman. Not really. I mean, You know the backstory, good enough. Jump in.
That's good enough, and the rest of it that's more current, you'll figure out one way or the other.
Yeah.
It once again, like it used to be in the old days, where there might be some references to where you might be able to check it, especially now in the day and age of internet. You can go, okay, something must have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened 2 or 3 issues ago. Well, let me go find out. So at least I can read a review or a synopsis, so I might be able to do that. Or better yet, be able to order the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think it did what it wanted to in that sense, It did start an easier start here, And not to completely derail, but you said there hasn't been a comic book in a while. Monstrose was really good about opening the book and it not being like a splash paragraph you have to read, but part of the story, like after the war with so-and-so, we catch up with our, and that's the way they always started the story arc, was kind of a few panels to, after our heroes defeated the villain, we see them now, So it kind of did give you that, I know what's going on. I don't know completely what happened in that war, but I know here's where we're at, So that one was a pretty good, user-friendly, I'll say.
Well, I'm thinking more Marvel, because Marvel can be really hit or miss with their previously. So it could be really good and informative, or it could be just a clusterfuck, and you're just going, okay. Like I said, perfect example is the X-Men.
Yeah.
I wanted to read the story. I was told it was good.
They gave you the history instead of just...
And they tried to cram too much history into one page.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the best thing you could probably have done in that situation is just ignore it and start reading the book.
Yeah.
True.
Because, yes, sometimes writers want to over-explain things. But it's up to you as a reader to gauge that and not let them.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
But then sometimes you can run into those writers who are like, well, if I have to explain it to you, it's not really worth explaining. You're like,
and you completely walk away from those jackasses, and that's
big
fine.
Time. Yeah. Yep.
Right. It's the problem is when your editing staff starts feeling the same way, and you're like, no. Yous guys are the ones who are supposed to make sure that everybody can easily figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I agree. It is a lot, very much on the writers, but don't leave out. I mean, there's more to it than that. It's a little deeper problem, because there are people there who are supposed to be telling the writers to get their shit straight. And sometimes they're doing that, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're under orders to be strict, and sometimes they're under orders to not worry too much about that sort of thing. Let the story tell itself. Well, yeah, sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's a really good editor can usually spot the distinction there. I'm not gonna throw around absolutes, because nobody's perfect, but
right.
A lot of times they will be able to tell, because they're kind of the ones paying attention over the course of the arc. It's kind of on them, and they for the most part, I mean, I don't want to say all editors are awesome or all editors suck. It's a mixed bag, and you kind of get what you get. But hopefully they're paying attention and can fix a lot of that if you let them. If the powers that be, if the major corporations let them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it amazes me, going back and reading some of the older stories. I don't see it so much now, and that may be, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you look at the credits and the writer is also the editor. I mean, hell, Stan Lee was doing it, and he's managing several books. But I just see that, and it's like, I wonder what would happen if that was being done now. If I'm not going to name any names, so today's writer is also the editor. if the writer thought that was fine, then wouldn't the editor? Yeah, it's just
Well,
anyway.
well, and if you think about it, last week we're talking to David Pepos, and he's basically saying the same thing.
Right.
He was saying that it's it's very freeing to be allowed or to allow yourself to be edited by somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly what he was saying. He said, I can do it, but it's a hell of a lot easier to not have to. I mean, so
Right.
for something like the OZ, he's doing that. He's editing his own work there. But when he's doing Scouts Honor for Aftershock, somebody else is doing it, and that he was saying that's a whole lot easier for him. So yeah, I mean, the good writers like to be edited because it adds another set of eyes and it makes things a lot easier. I mean, yes, they have a vision, and that's great. They should have a vision. It's awesome that they have a vision, but it's actually very difficult to read your own work objectively. And that's where you're going to get your best editing is if somebody is reading your work objectively.
Yeah, you're too close to it. So, yeah.
Yep. And that's not a failing of the writer. That's just the way. I mean, that's a writer's ability to whether they can get inside their own head or outside of their own head. And I mean, sometimes it can just be a difference between a day or two. I mean, sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't, and it's not a failing or anything. It's just the way. Yeah, it's just really hard, you know.
The run that DC had between the New 52 and Rebirth, was a series of 2-issue stories, and that to me was some of the best stuff that they had done. That was Convergence, and Convergence got you ready for the return of the characters you knew and loved prior to Flashpoint. That's where you first met Jonathan Kent, the son of Clark and Lois, which I thought was a great story. Plus, like I said, it was the first appearance of him, although he was a baby at that time. Now, of course, John is posing it, or not posing. He is Superman. And that's due to the Infinite Frontier. You have a new Batman because of the Infinite Frontier. You have a new Wonder Woman because of the same. So DC has expanded what they had. One of the big titles I know that you loved, Liz, was Death Metal.
Yeah.
And that was through the expansion of Rebirth that appeared. And that gave you a new villain. They've given you many villains, many more heroes. You had, what was it, Superman? The Asian Superman?
Mm-hmm.
You had the whole, the Justice League for Asia. You had, of course, the Green Lantern Corps, which is not necessarily new, but it was a difference. They had different characters than most new. You had new characters on Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
What was the... Okay, Deadstroke gave you Deadpool, and then Deadpool gave you one of the characters from Harley Quinn, which I thought was hysterical because you made fun of somebody making fun of somebody.
Mm-hmm. He was
you-
like not Red Hood, but something like that. But yeah, that one was good.
And he was an idiot, which I thought was fun. You had Super Sons. So from this, you got more characters. You got some that were really good and some that were not so good. But that's fine because usually the bad ones were only around for one issue.
Yeah.
And you said adios and never see them again. So, to me, Rebirth was a resurgence. It was a financial boost. And for the most part, it gave me good storylines, including one-shots or mini-series, things like that. So I'm going to be a proponent for the Rebirth titles. I just thought it was good stuff.
See, I like the Convergence comparison too because it's an interesting snapshot because it was an interesting little. I mean, they had like practical reasons for doing that, and what they managed to do out of it was create a kind of a small event that wasn't that made some changes and did a few things differently, but it wasn't a full reboot of the whole universe. It was just they threw a few books out there and kind of took a look at it to see what changes stuck and what didn't go over so well. And my whole thought is, well, why the hell can't they just always do it that way? I mean, Why does everything have to be this huge catastrophic thing? Are they really tricking everybody into buying literally every book they publish for 6 months? When they do that, when they decide to change the whole world, is that really what's happening? Because I bet it's not. I mean, they say they're getting new readers, but my guess is what they're doing is they're putting a financial burden on the readers they already have to buy more books for a short period of time.
True.
So they're not really selling. They're selling more books, but they're not really gaining audience. So maybe if you've got some ideas for things you want to change, maybe just throw a one-shot thing out there. Maybe a quick little three issue miniseries that say, hey, how does this look? Let's try this and see how it goes. I mean, it's a great Convergence was a great learning opportunity, and it will be interesting to see if they actually learned from it.
Yeah.
I'll agree to that.
I mean, and all that said, I seem to remember from 5 years ago, at least some of us being pretty excited about Rebirth when it was starting. And generally, I recall the reaction to it being pretty positive at the time. So, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seemed to be, they somehow, whether it was, I mean, however they managed to figure it out, they seemed to figure out what they needed to change back and what needed to just change again. And I mean, was every series a huge hit? Not necessarily, but it seemed to do well enough in general,
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Certainly better than the last time they had done it.
Yeah.
I also wonder how much further they're going to have to go down this road before we have to have another Infinite Crisis. But I'm not as in touch with all of that stuff as some other people might be. Just seems like they're headed that way again.
Well, one thing they've done recently is with the New Frontier or the Infinite Frontier, they've fallen back with to me, some really good ideas, like in the Batman series. Batman is not I'm not going to say good guy, but he is considered a true vigilante that is not liked by the current administration. In fact, they've gone out and purchased teams to fight vigilantes. All of the superheroes around Gotham are now wanted people. And to me, this was a really good idea, because you have to really fight to absorb everything in and see how things will pan out. There are some titles I got no idea what is going on, but those are titles that I'm not following either, so I don't feel bad about it. I think DC hit it right on the head. I think they did not commit a foul in this one, in the Rebirth stuff. And as a result, they've been able to go forward and realign things, yet not offend anybody at that time. So kudos to DC, what they've done. They've been able to rectify problems, and because of the way they're handling it, it's going to be successful for them. So, huzzah! I think it's going to be good.
Yep.
Yeah, they've gone 5 whole years and they haven't, well, of course, except for that one little thing, they haven't felt the need to completely reboot their universe again. So that's a win.
Yep.
I mean, the one time they did start thinking about trying, they realized nobody was interested.
Yeah.
So
Fired Dido over it, right? They were like, nope. But it kind of crazy, because didn't they kind of do some of the 5G plan anyways?
I think they cherry picked some stuff out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. I think they kind of kept it separate, didn't they? I mean, I'm not as familiar with it as others, but it seems like they didn't go for any wholesale changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he wanted to totally shake things up, and I think they went with Little Trimmer.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Rebirth then?
No, just if you haven't read it, they do have all of this in omnibuses and stuff now. The whole Rebirth thing was pretty interesting, the way it went down and how they reintroduced and stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's a little easier now.
Yeah, what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of websites, actually, if you don't want the omnibuses, that break it down in its reading order, too. So a little more expensive that way, but...
Ah, yes, the old bibliography option.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Woo.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for weekly picks, and this week I lead off. My first choice is from Marvel Comics. It is What If, the original Marvel series Omnibus Volume 1. And this collects issues 1 through 15 and 17 through 22 of the original series. And I picked this because, with the series streaming on Disney Plus, that's gotten a lot of people's attention. I kind of wanted to point out, hey, there's stories you should read, and some of these have actually made it into regular continuity. One of them was What If Conan Walked the Streets of Today, which has been happening in the Avengers book, or one of the Avengers book. The other one is What if Jane Foster gained the hammer of Thor, and this is actually the inspiration of that 2 or 3 year story arc of Jane being Thor from a couple of years ago. But some other ones that are included in this omnibus is what if Spider-Man had joined the Fantastic Four? What if Dr. Doom had become a hero? What if someone other than Peter Parker had been bitten by the radioactive spider, which I love that story. But there's actually there's about 4 or 5 different stories in that one. What if Hulk had Bruce Banner's brain? What if the invaders had stayed together after World War II, and on and on and on. Some great stories by some of the best writers and artists of the time on Marvel. And it's definitely pick it up. It's worth the read. And if you notice, there was one issue that was not included. It was issue 16, and that's due to legal reasons. So, but that one's dealing with Shang-Chi and Fu Manchu, which they do not have the rights to. They don't have the rights to Fu Manchu anymore. So obviously, so they can't print. So they can't reprint that one.
No, they can't.
Did not know that.
Yep.
That's very cool.
Yep. It's a fun run. Definitely recommend picking it up because I enjoyed reading them when I was a kiddo. Alrighty, Les, you're up.
My first choice comes from Heavy Metal. This is Tarna Elements. This is a magazine that is printing the original series from Heavy Metal magazine, and it concerns the past of Tarna and leads toward the new direction that they're holding now. This is a comic book. Now, I know that stories in Heavy Metal magazine were just 6 or 8 pages maybe, and this perhaps is 2 or 3 chapters of that story. I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to it to catch up on the character that is in publication now.
Cool. Always liked that character, so I'm glad that they're doing more stories with her.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to see where they're going to take her.
Yep.
And also, somebody's clock is off.
Yeah, a little bit. Alrighty, Liz, you are up.
All right. For my first pick, it's one from Scout Comics, which I think they're putting on their Scoot imprint, and it's called Little Guardians. This is going to follow 2 young adults. I believe one's a guy, one's a girl. They're mixed up at birth, so one goes on to train to fight monsters, and the other one becomes like a simple little shop girl. Well, chaos erupts, and of course you don't have the right fighter for this, so the little shop girl is visited by her animal spirit, pretty much telling her, hey, what are you doing here? So, should be cute. I think I read somewhere, now regular previews are not giving much of a synopsis on this story. You really had to dig for it. I think this is going to be a 6-issue miniseries. So it sounds cute. I hate to keep saying cute, but
No, you don't.
No.
you say it's kind of a, young adults coming of age. What are you gonna do? So
You battle monsters, of course.
yeah.
Well, sure.
And could you imagine having a calling and you're being stuck working in a gift shop?
I can't go.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
That's right.
Good reference.
Yeah, we've been mentioning the Scoot imprint a lot lately, so
Yep.
it sounds like maybe they're doing some cool stuff over there, you know.
I really
Definitely.
think they are. And if you go over to their website, it seems like their younger adult titles are their top sellers.
Nice.
So,
Good to hear.
yep.
Mm.
Alrighty. Mike.
Oh yeah, it's my turn. So my first pick is from Dynamite, and they're rebooting Red Sonja.
What?
I know it's not like they don't always do that, but in this case, I'm usually interested in what they're doing with Red Sonja because I like the character. But in this case, I'm especially interested because of who they're doing it with. They've brought in Mirka Andolfo to do this, and she's very popular right now. And honestly, she entirely deserves the attention she's getting. But she's been working with DC for a while. I really dug her Unnatural series a couple years ago. It was really interesting and also very well drawn. She's one of those that can do both. So I am really looking forward to seeing what she comes up with for Red Sonja.
Really
Nice.
cool.
I like the sound of that.
Alrighty. I'm up again, and for my second choice, it's a cute one, Les.
Yay.
This is from Random House Graphic, entitled Mayor Good Boy, Volume 1. And this is a story about a dog that was elected the mayor of Greenwood. And according to this, it says, Mayor Good Boy is here to help Greenwood become a town filled with kindness, starting with fetching help for the local zoo.
Mhm.
With foes around every corner trying to put a stop to Mayor Good Boy's campaign of fun, are there cheese snacks and belly rubs in his future? Or will his whole town suddenly have a flea problem?
Ah, man, I could use some cheese
Yeah.
snacks and belly rubs right about now. But anyway.
So
He
this
served
should be
all
fun.
the scritches.
So this should be a fun little read.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know about that one, but I'm getting that one.
That's cute, Liz. That's very
Mhm. It's cute.
Yeah, go fetch.
All righty then. Les, you're up next.
How do I ever follow that?
Pick something cute then.
My second choice is a cute one too.
Yay.
From Humanoids Comes Space Bastards Volume 1, Tooth and Nail. This is the story of the galaxy's most dangerous employers, the IPS. The IPS is the Intergalactic Postal Service. So, this is a collection of several issues. I'm in on this because the Space Bastards just sounds hysterical.
Yeah, it does.
This is one of the artists is Derek Robertson, who did first Transmetropolitan, second The Boys, and third Happy. And I'm looking forward to this just because it's got to be funny as hell.
Yeah.
It's got to be cute.
And twisted.
Oh, by far.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Liz.
Okay, well, this one's not cute. This one comes from Dark Horse, and it's a trade, and it's called Fear Case. They say at all disasters and tragedy, one thing in common that they have is this fear box. And this will follow This will follow some partners who are trying to stay ahead of whatever cult or crazy person is behind this fear case, so they can figure out how they choose their tragedies, where it's going to be next. And if they don't, I kind of take it the fear case is kind of like The Ring, like with the videotape. After 3 days, you have to do something. If not, you die. And pretty much that's the fear case. Somebody gets it. 3 days later, they've either got to get rid of it, pass it along, or they die. So the detectives, I guess, are faced up against, they've got 3 days to find it before it moves on again. So should be pretty cool. A lot of freaky things happening around this box. So it was a 4-issue miniseries, which of course is going to be collected in the trade.
Cool. So it's like a chain letter, basically.
A really bad one, yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, my second choice is also not cute. It is from IDW though, and it strikes me as being potentially very important. It is called Crime Comics Confidential, and this is a collection of pre-code crime comics, and some of these may or may not be part of the reason why we had a code there for a while. This is some of the stuff that got investigated. So, but it's basically, I mean, pardon this joke, but kind of a murderer's row of creators from that time period, kind of the best of the best. And this is about, I mean, some of these stories are about actual real criminals. Whether they're glorifying some of their stuff or not, hey, who knows? Just should check it out and see. But I think this is going to be really interesting, even just from a historical standpoint. But I'm also curious to see how that some of the stuff got overblown as well. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will be.
And everybody lays out on that one. Thanks. Appreciate that. Alrighty. Any special shout outs this week?
No.
Don't think so.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to our regular shout outs. I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great network of podcasts. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in our show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Podern Family on Twitter, who've been so gracious enough as to retweet our links. Easiest way to find them is to do a search, hashtag Podern Family, one word. Just scroll through and whatever catches your eye, please download that episode, and hope you have a good time listening to them. Thank you guys for your support. I also want to thank Mandy the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. In our show notes, we'll have a link to their music where you can check out their fine work. Thank you guys. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support and value your feedback. Any comments, questions, complaints, observations, suggestions, what have you, please send them our way. And there are several avenues for you to do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to our website, and on the About Us page, there is a contact form you can fill out. We mentioned the Discord earlier. We do have a channel that's specifically designed for feedback, or if you'd like to message us individually, you can do that. We are on social media. Facebook is The Fellowship of the Geeks, and obviously we're on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there as well. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLes Webster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you would please take a couple moments, rate us and review us. It would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Do appreciate you listening. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,